Scrum of Scrums is a regular meeting where team leads gather to talk and as much as possible be open with each other about the project challenges. They root out dependencies, maybe brainstorm solutions if it makes sense, and ultimately make commitments of what they'll do to move the project forward. The attendees normally will review progress against milestones in a Scrum of Scrums meeting. The meeting is not a status meeting and it's not a planning meeting. It is not for just Scrum Masters and not for management. It is a team sync meeting, synchronization meeting during development, focused on helping the development teams develop. If done right, Scrum of Scrums can be a great way to boost team self-organization, collaboration, and help find and remove impediments, and ultimately lead to quality software. Please note there's different levels of Scrum of Scrums, including recurring syncs at the corporate level, or maybe at the portfolio level, or even at a component level or at a manager level. You can have a type of a Scrum of Scrums. This post focuses on what I'll call the product Scrum of Scrums, where you're really focused on delivering one product to a customer who will consume the whole thing together. There's a lot of different agendas for Scrum of Scrums. The important thing is to have a meeting where you sync with other team leads. The agenda is not nearly as important, and in fact, I highly recommend you start with hot topics at the very beginning. As people file into the room, say, what's going on? Let's address those first instead of robotically going through an agenda. Then it probably makes sense to review your release milestones and see how you're doing against them, whether you've got burn downs or burn ups, and see if it's likely you're going to hit those numbers. And then decide whether you need to take action. Of course, the key thing for Scrum of Scrums is to review cross-team dependencies. If you find them, brainstorm solutions right then, give owners and due dates. For some really complex projects, it might make sense to have a daily sync instead of a weekly Scrum of Scrums, maybe where the tech leads get together and make sure they're staying in step. I would also take some time, put it up on the board to put your main risks, brainstorm solutions, assign an owner to that risk, even if it's not the person who's ultimately going to keep it from happening, but somebody you can turn to and say, what's the update on this? You might also want to include ongoing updates from teams like DevOps, or how the UAT is going, or the automated testing team is going, to make sure everybody understands generally what's happening across the project. I'd spend a little time talking about PTO, or personal time off. Draw out the impacts of anybody being gone for a couple days during the sprint. I think it also makes sense every couple of days at least to ask for team temperature. I use a scale of 1 to 5. 1 means they're doing terrible, 5 means they're feeling really good. Usually use their hands and fists. That nothing means they're really doing awful. But write it up on the board, and also the trend. Is it going up or down? A lot of times, especially when you miss a milestone or somebody leaves the team, your trend will definitely go down, but it's better to call it out than to sweep it under the rug. Again, if you have time, do kudos at the end. Ask the room who's doing great work and write their name up on the board, and then a couple notes on what it is they've been working on the past sprint or the past couple days. And then whoever brought it up, have them write an email to that person and then copy everybody who's in Scrum of Scrums and say, hey, your name came up in Scrum of Scrums and we really want to thank you for the great work that you're doing. Again, remember, ultimately the agenda is secondary in a Scrum of Scrums to uncovering the real issues, having a discussion, and coming up with a mitigation plan.